At the end of Wistoria, Wand and Sword, episode 11, power welled up within Will, and with the power of Wand and Sword, Will struck down the evil Grand Duke. But will the monsters that were led by the Grand Duke make the team's escape possible? Let's find out in episode 12 of Wistoria called Wand and Sword. Episode 12 begins where episode 11 left off. Will, having just been tossed a crystal from his roommate Rosti, uses the crystal, along with Scion's fire magic, to combine Wand and Sword. And with one exceptional slash using Wand and Sword, Will was able to slice the evil Grand Duke in half. Will's team stood by, watching in complete and utter awe. Just as Will begins to catch his breath, and the massive wave of power he felt begins to leave his body, his teammates call out to him. Will turns to face his team, only to be struck by pure horror at the sight of monsters pouring in from all sides, aiming to finish what the Grand Duke started. Wignall points out that the monsters must have come running when the evil Grand Duke let out his final scream as he was cut down by Will. And Lihana is thinking that none of them have the strength left to get them out of these dire circumstances. Honestly, the whole team seems to be losing hope. In the meantime, Professors Werkner and Edward are racing as fast as they possibly can to get to the students before the unthinkable happens. But as they get close to the 11th floor, watching the students on Werkner's crystal as they make their way toward them, it becomes clearer by the second that they won't make it in time. On the dungeon floor, as a monster is mere moments away from killing Julius, Will screams out to Julius in sheer panic, unable to do anything to help his teammate. And just as the monster swings at Julius, coming from the depths of the dungeon, a man can be heard reciting a spell. With this one spell, every monster surrounding Will and his team are completely engulfed in bright light, beaming from the ground high into the sky. As the spell is recited, each of the light-covered monsters are obliterated all at once. It looks like whoever saved Will and his team did it with next to no effort, and Will stares on in astonishment, explaining that what was used to save them was an advanced annihilation spell. Will, wanting to figure out who cast the spell, begins to look around. High up above, Will and everyone else in the dungeon spot the source. The man who saved everyone is Aaron, Mysterious Old King, the king of the Magia Bander and the most powerful of the wands. While Aaron, Mysterious Old King, stands above, looking down at the recently rescued students, Will wonders why Old King and some of his subordinates are down here, before taking note of the deep dungeon gear that they were wearing. This means that they were all on their way to return to the surface from a deep dungeon dive. Before Will can think more on the subject, the king of the Magia Bander spoke, addressing the students and stating, "Upon those who defy the darkness of the dungeon, I have bestowed the blessing of the light upon you. You fought well, children of magic." Granted, that sounds nothing like him, but I did what I could. This brought immense joy to Will and his team, honored to be in the presence of the most powerful wand in the Magia Bander. And Will explains that Aaron, Mysterious Old King, is a mage that even makes elves tremble with excitement being in his presence, and that all worship him. Will continues thinking that while everyone else in the room is focused on the king of the Magia Bander, Will can't help but to be drawn to another, one who stood close by Aaron, Mysterious Old King. In the moment that Will is thinking this, the man that he is staring at jumps down to Will's level, approaching Will and thinking, "So the sword still lives, huh?" Reaching Will, the man introduces himself as Finn. Meanwhile, in another part of the dungeon, we take a moment to have a quick catch-up with Mars and Headless, the two men who sent the evil Grand Duke to attack Will and his team. Mars is talking to Headless about how they made the right call in collecting the goods that they were after, because if Old King and his team had attacked them, there's no way that they would have obtained what they needed. As Mars is saying this, he is holding a large sword, showing it as the item collected, or possibly one of the items collected from the dungeon raid. And Headless agrees with Mars, excited that now that they have what they were looking for, they can throw one hell of a party. From here, the scene shifts as we're finally taken back to Regarden Magical Academy, where a funeral is being held. During this unprecedented praxis exam, there were 11 fatalities, all being Regarden professors. These professors, having lost their lives, did so protecting their students, as it is confirmed that no students were mortally wounded due to the incident. Will and his team, while resting in the infirmary, begin to discuss everything that went down. Scion asks everyone who the headless guy and his buddy are, and Wignall says that he doesn't know, but he knows that they are strong. Julius interjects, saying that if Wistoria and Noah hadn't shown up, they would have all fallen to the monsters. And just as a side note, in case I didn't mention it earlier, Mysterious Noah is the Light faction, the faction led by Aaron Mysterious Old King. Liana also chimes in, telling everyone that although the worst could have happened, they all made it out alive, and she's grateful for that fact. Thinking about what Liana said, everyone relaxes, all seeming to be thinking about how grateful they also are to be alive. And just as quiet calm settles over the room, a roaring growl can be heard coming from none other than Liana's stomach. Liana quickly grabs her stomach as though trying to hide the growl. Alas, everyone heard it. Liana, desperately trying to change the subject, shifts gears back to talking about the dungeon, explaining that in the end, Will is what held them all together, and that without him, they'd likely all be dead right now. Will cuts in, telling everyone that it was all of them working together that really saved everyone. And Julius, forever a jerk, also jumps in, suggesting that Will isn't special and he almost got them all killed when his goggles broke. Julius continues to talk down to Will, annoying Colette so much that she ends up shoving an apple into Julius's mouth just to get him to stop talking. Scion takes advantage of this moment of silence, asking Will what that power was that he used in the dungeon. But Will doesn't have an answer. Will tells Scion that in the moment, his mind went blank. Colette suggests asking Professor Werkner about the extraordinary power Will displayed, but for some reason, this brings Will back to thinking about Finn, the young man he met in the dungeon. Will asks everyone if they know who he is, and Liana suggests that her best guess is that he is part of the Finn tribe. Liana goes on to explain that no one in the Finn tribe uses magic, but over generations they have gained extensive knowledge about the dungeon. She continues on, explaining that the Finn tribe has had a contract with the tower since the age of the Mage Queen, and they are used as guides in the dungeon. Without the Finn tribe, mages would have never made it to the deeper floors of the dungeon. Speaking of Finn, though, we are taken to him, entering Headmistress Cauldron's office to chat after returning from his dungeon expedition. Headmistress Cauldron greets Finn, asking what floor of the dungeon he and the Light faction made it to, and he advises her that they made it to the 49th floor. Finn then opens a cloth in front of Headmistress Cauldron, presenting her with a broken sword. Cauldron asks if this blade is the Mage Slayer that was outlined in the report that she read, and Finn confirms that it is. He reports that 20 high mages lost their lives in the pursuit of this blade, and based on the enemies he and the Light faction faced in the dungeon, Finn believes that this Mage Slayer was not created naturally by the dungeon, and that someone is performing experiments down there. Finn carries on, explaining to Headmistress Cauldron that Aaron Mysterious Old King, the king of the Magia Vander, has asked him to investigate, so Finn will be heading back into the dungeon. Before Finn leaves, though, he sits down on Headmistress Cauldron's desk to discuss one more issue that's been frustrating him. Finn asks Headmistress Cauldron why she kept Will a secret from him for all of these years. As a bead of sweat runs down Headmistress Cauldron's face, Finn reminds her that she looks after wands, and any swords that she encounters are supposed to be his territory. Cauldron explains to Finn that Will wants a wand and to ascend the tower more than anything. And Finn, taking a long second to think about the situation, tells Headmistress Cauldron that he will let her hold on to Will for a while longer, but to not be surprised if he meddles from now on. And Headmistress Cauldron, swiftly agreeing, says that everything they are doing is for the sake of surpassing the heavens. I don't know what that means exactly, but I can't wait to find out. Anyway, back at Regarden Magical Academy, right outside of the infirmary, Will is training with his sword as the rest of his team continues to recover. Colette comes outside to join Will, asking how he can manage to train right now, but sitting still was getting to Will, so he decided to come train. As Will and Colette continue their conversation outside with Julius, Lihana, and Wignall watching from the window, Scion makes his way over to where everyone is standing before yelling out of the window at Will to fight him. Scion then jumps out of the window, wand in hand, to face Will. Will and Colette both tell Scion not to push it because he's still healing, but Scion let them know that if Will is well enough to train, then so is he. Scion then reminds Will that he owes him a fight, and Will, with a smile on his face, readies himself. Will starts to run as Scion begins his attack, shooting blasts at Will all across the courtyard. It's in this moment that it hit, at least for me, that Scion and Will are officially proper rivals. Elfie can then be seen from the tower, looking down on Will, watching with a smile. And as a little time passes and the students settle back into class for their final exams of their 6th year at Regarden Magical Academy, Will is determined and ready to begin. A perfect place for Season 1 of Wistoria, Wand and Sword to end. This first season of Wistoria was a fun ride. I love a good magic-focused, action-packed anime in general, but the visuals on this one were top tier. Granted, none of my questions from episode 11 were answered, but the show is leaving me fairly hopeful that future seasons will expand upon everything that's been left unanswered at this point. I'm not going to get too deep into it right now though, because I'd like to do a video in the future with all of my unanswered questions, just to get an idea of what you all think could be happening, and maybe toss a few theories out there myself. But with that being said, I hope you all enjoyed Season 1 of Wistoria, Wand and Sword. Please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, and I can't wait to see you all back here for a Wistoria Season 2 recap.